Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're really plunging into the whole world of mastery.
Yeah, it's a fascinating topic. We've got Robert Greene's big book, Mastery, as a sort of anchor.
Right. And also that really detailed transcript from the YouTube audiobook version. A lot to work with.
Definitely. So the aim is to, what, pull out the key stuff.
Exactly. Give you, the listener, kind of a shortcut. The core ideas on skills, creativity, how to navigate things, get you informed without, making you feel like a textbook.
With some surprising stories thrown in, hopefully.
That's the plan.
Eh.
Okay, so where do we even start with something this big? Maybe the foundations.
Makes sense. And the sources actually take us way, way back to early human evolution.
Right, out on the savannah, vulnerable, that whole picture.
Exactly. And that intense pressure, it forged really two crucial advantages for us. Sustained attention.
You mean like the ability to really focus, not just react like other animals, seeing patterns, thinking ahead.
Precisely that. Detaching mentally, observing deeply, that was huge. And the second thing was sharp social intelligence.
Because survival wasn't just about spotting predators. It was about the group.
Right, absolutely. They interacted intensely, reading people, understanding cues, misread someone in your group, and, well, that could be disastrous.
So these two things, deep focus and social smarts, they weren't separate tracks.
No, they fed each other. And this combination, it led to complex skills, like inventing and refining hunting techniques over millions of years, becoming more creative, adaptive.
And the brain growth around 200,000 years ago, that fits in here.
It seems to. Suggests a link between that cognitive expansion and this growing mastery over their environment and, well, themselves.
The transcript also mentioned, kind of briefly, a discovery by Italian neuroscientists back in the 90s.
Yeah, it doesn't go into deep detail, but it hints that maybe there's a biological underpinning, something about how our brains are actually wired for this kind of deep learning and skill acquisition.
Like we're sort of primed for mastery.
Potentially, yeah. But, and this is crucial, the sources stress that it's not a one-and-done thing. Learning isn't a destination.
Ah, right. You don't just get there. Skills decay. Creativity needs refreshing.
Completely. You have to constantly challenge yourself, push your mind back into that open state, revisit things. Complacency is like the enemies of mastery.
It's like tending a garden. You have to keep at it.
That's a good way to put it, which kind of dismantles another common idea. The myth of innate giftedness.
Oh, yeah, the idea that some people are just born geniuses.
The sources argue strongly against that. Greene quotes Nietzsche saying great individuals were often, quote, very little gifted. Their greatness came from qualities we can all cultivate.
Like what? Just hard work.
Seriousness, meticulous attention to detail, really mastering the basics, the little secondary things, as Nietzsche put it, finding joy in the process, not just the outcome. It's built step by step.
That's empowering, actually. Puts the control back in our hands. So if it's built, where do you start building? The sources talk about finding your calling or life's task.
Yeah, this is framed as the critical first step, an inner force, a deep inclination trying to guide you.
Like that thing you were obsessed with as a kid, before anyone told you it wasn't practical.
Exactly. It's often clearer in childhood that primal curiosity, before external pressures, parents, peers, society, start muddying the waters.
And ignoring that voice leads to what? Feeling unhappy, disconnected?
That's the idea, a sense of being off track.
Yeah.
So the first move towards mastery is actually inward, reconnecting with that core interest, that guiding force.
Finding the right path. And the suggestion is other things then start to align.
They tend to, yeah. And importantly, the message is, it's never too late to start that search.
Okay, groundwork laid. Let's get into some actual strategies. How do you pursue this? The transcript had some interesting ones.
It did. One was called the deep diversion strategy.
Okay.
The example used, Iona Howard.
Right, mastering one field, robotics, then expanding into another, like neuroscience.
Exactly. You use your deep expertise in one area to create novel connections with another, potentially related field. It lets you carve out your own unique niche.
Which is powerful today with information everywhere. Connecting ideas is key.
And it gives you more freedom, less direct competition than staying in a crowded main field. You can sort of set your own agenda.
Makes sense. Then there was the opposite almost. Avoiding false paths. Using Mozart's story.
Ah, Mozart, such a complex example. Obviously a prodigy, his father Leopold driving him.
But inside, he wasn't happy just performing, was he? He had this deeper urge to compose.
Especially opera. But Leopold wanted financially safer, more conventional pieces. Good intentions, maybe, but it stifled Wolfgang.
And things got worse. That disastrous Paris trip, his mother dying.
It all built up. He returned to Salzburg, tried to submit, but eventually realized his father, his path, was fundamentally blocking his true creative calling.
So staying in Vienna, breaking away, was essential, even though it must have been incredibly painful.
Unnecessary rebellion. The strategy is about recognizing when you're on a path for the wrong reasons. Money, fame, pleasing someone else, and finding the courage to break away.
Even if it means confronting a powerful influence like a parent or mentor, metaphorically slaying the father figure.
Whatever form that takes for you, yeah. Recognizing the obstacle and dealing with it.
Okay, so sometimes it's rebellion, other times it's adaptation, right? Letting go of the past. Freddie Roach, the boxing trainer.
Oh, his story is fantastic for this. Groomed for boxing, had some success, but hit a wall. Couldn't break ingrained habits in fights, even training with the great Eddie Futch.
Futch actually told him to retire, didn't he?
He did, and Roach went through a rough patch, drinking, resentful, until he wandered back into Futch's gym, just to help out.
And that sparked something new. He started working with Virgil Hill, focusing on mitt work.
And he saw potential in it beyond just basic practice. He started innovating, using it for strategy, real-time adjustments. He adapted.
He let go of being the washed-up fighter and embraced this new role as a trainer, constantly evolving.
Totally transformed his path. It shows you have to be willing to pivot, to shed old identities if they're holding you back.
Wow. Okay, one more strategy from this section, turning weaknesses into strengths. Temple Grandin.
An incredible example. Dealing with autism, sensory challenges, but this profound connection to animals.
Especially her focus on that squeeze chute for cattle. She felt what they felt.
Seemingly, yeah. She used her intense focus, her unique way of perceiving the world, things that might be seen as deficits, and channeled them. She built her own chute, researched obsessively.
So instead of trying to overcome her weaknesses in human interaction, she doubled down on her strengths with animals and systems.
Exactly. Developed reading, research skills out of necessity. Gained confidence, carved out a whole career designing humane livestock handling systems, then expanded into writing, lecturing.
The strategy here is focus on the small things you can do well. Build from that proficiency.
Yes. Avoid grand plans you can't execute. Master simple, immediate skills first. Build confidence, then expand. And crucially, don't waste energy envying the naturally gifted. That focus on your process develops diligence.
It makes mastery feel much more accessible, doesn't it? Even with big challenges.
It really does.
Okay, these are powerful foundational ideas and starting strategies. Understanding our roots, debunking myths, finding our path, adapting.
And realizing limitations can sometimes be reframed as strengths.
Right. But this is just the beginning. Next, we need to get into the actual learning process, the apprenticeship.
Exactly. The nitty-gritty of skill acquisition, mentorship, dealing with failure. That's all coming up.
So for you listening, maybe take a moment. Think about these initial ideas, the evolutionary roots, the myth of talent, finding that inner calling. Any aha moments there?
And maybe consider that final strategy with Temple Grandin. Where could you focus on a small strength, build confidence, instead of dwelling on a perceived weakness?
Yeah, and the big question from this part, what's that thing you feel drawn to, that subject or activity that sparks your curiosity? How could applying just one of these initial ideas, focus, rebellion, adaptation, change how you approach it?
Definitely something to think about. We'll dive deeper into the apprenticeship next time.
Okay, so we've laid the groundwork. Now let's dig into the apprenticeship phase itself. This sounds like where the real work happens.
It absolutely is. Greene calls it a critical second, practical education. But it's fraught with challenges, insecurities, conflicts, fears.
It's not just about learning skills, is it? It's about transforming your mind, your character, becoming an independent thinker.
That's the ultimate goal. And it starts with what Greene calls the first transformation. Submit to reality.
Submit to reality. What does that mean exactly?
Charles Darwin is the key example here. His father wanted him in medicine, then theology, respectable paths. But Darwin's interests were elsewhere. Beetles, hunting.
Things his father disapproved of.
Right. So Darwin was kind of drifting. His real education, the transformative one, was the Beagle voyage.
Getting out there, observing, collecting, thinking for himself, away from those external pressures.
Exactly. Immersed in practical experience, not just theory. It's about choosing work, choosing situations, primarily for the learning potential, not status or money initially. Practical knowledge is the real currency here.
Okay, submit to reality. Embrace practical learning. What's next?
The second transformation. Absorb the master's power. This is where deep practice comes in. Our brains are wired for it, mirror neurons, you know. We watch, we imitate, we repeat.
Like learning an instrument or coding or anything complex, you just have to put in the hours, right? That repetition.
And it builds on itself. Practice leads to skill, which makes practice more rewarding, which leads to more practice, an accelerating cycle.
The key is focusing, isn't it? Pick one core skill to really hammer down first. Avoid spreading yourself too thin.
Definitely. Resist multitasking. And embrace the initial tedium. That grind builds mental toughness, patience. Boredom becomes a signal you need a new challenge within the skill.
And this is where the whole 10,000 hours idea fits in.
Sort of. It's not a magic number carved in stone, but it represents that vast amount of quality practice needed for high-level mastery, typically 7–10 years, like a traditional apprenticeship. Deep immersion.
So intense, focused practice. Then what?
The third transformation, you move into the active mode, experimentation.
Meaning, going beyond just absorbing.
Yeah, taking on more responsibility, initiating your own projects, actively seeking criticism, testing your knowledge against reality.
Like Darwin on the Beagle again, bouncing ideas off the captain, thinking about how the public might react.
Exactly. Or think of Leonardo da Vinci in Verrocchio's studio, starting to assert his own style, even surprising his master. You're gauging your progress, finding your weak spots, observing yourself in action.
And the signal that this phase is ending is when you feel like you've learned all you can in that specific environment.
Pretty much. You feel ready to strike out more on your own. And the skills you learn in this process make learning new skills later much easier.
It seems even more relevant now, doesn't it? With technology, information overload, you need deep skills and the ability to connect them.
Absolutely. The future, especially in science, requires synthesis, broad understanding, not just narrow trade secrets. Valuing learning above all else sets the stage for creativity and, often, financial success down the line.
What about learning for people you can't directly apprentice under? Like historical figures or experts you read.
That's crucial too. Greene talks about second-degree mentors, expanding your horizons through reading, like Zora Neale Hurston did.
So absorb their ideas, but then you have to
Wait.
make them your own through practice.
Yes. Apply the knowledge, experiment with it, internalize their voice, their way of thinking, but filter it through your own experience. It's learning by example, absorbing the rules of the craft, but maintaining your own vision.
And mistakes. We have to talk about failure during apprenticeship.
Oh, it's unavoidable.
Yeah.
And essential. But Greene distinguishes two kinds. Failure from never trying, which is just timidity.
And failure from taking bold risks, experimenting.
Right. The second kind is incredibly valuable. It toughens you, gives you clarity. Ironically, huge early success can sometimes be a curse.
How so?
You might not question why you succeeded. Was it luck? Skill? Then when failure inevitably hits later, it can be crushing because you haven't built resilience. Sometimes, failing early and often is better for long-term growth.
Like an entrepreneur who tries things knowing they might fail, just for the experience points.
Exactly that mindset.
Okay, another really interesting idea was combining the how and the what. Santiago Calatrava, the architect-engineer.
His story is perfect for this. He started in art, fascinated by capturing movement, learned math to help him draw better, shifted to architecture.
But felt something was missing. He understood the design, the appearance, but not the deep how.
Exactly. The engineering, the construction, how buildings actually stood up and worked. He felt that gap in his knowledge.
So he basically went back to school, studied civil engineering.
Pretty much restarted, yeah. Grounded himself in the hardcore mechanics. Then he brought that engineering knowledge back to his architectural vision, exploring how structures could move, fold.
Like that incredible wing-like roof on the Milwaukee Art Museum.
A prime example. He bridged the two worlds. The outer appearance, what, and the inner workings, how. Greene argues that understanding the how is just as poetic. It reveals life's secrets.
It pushes back against that historical split between art and science.
And suggests the future demands more rounded knowledge. Especially when basic information is easy to find, understanding the underlying mechanics, technology, organizations, economics gives you real power. Constantly asking how deepens your feel for reality.
And that ties into trial and error too, right? Like Paul Graham with programming.
Yeah, his fascination with computers, building one, seeing the gap between his vision and the clunky reality.
Discovering Lisp, focusing on the process of creation, not just the end goal.
His whole approach was iterative. Build something basic, get it out there, test it, get feedback, refine it, repeat. Mistakes weren't failures, they were data points.
Absolutely crucial for learning. Get prototypes into the real world quickly.
It's how science advances, how art evolves. Every attempt is a lesson.
We keep touching on mentors. Let's focus on that relationship. It seems so central.
Hugely central. More than just teaching, it's personalized guidance that can dramatically accelerate your development. Finding someone who embodies what you aspire to.
Like Darwin had John Henslow for intellectual guidance and connections.
Or Michael Faraday apprenticing with Humphrey Davy, learning directly through observation and assisting in experiments.
It's like learning through osmosis sometimes, picking up habits, ways of thinking, just by being around them.
A lot of it is that, yes. And a good mentor acts like a mirror, showing you weaknesses you can't see, pushing you past limits. They help tailor your learning.
And open doors through their network.
That too. But the dynamic should evolve. Initially you absorb, but eventually you should aim to contribute, maybe even surpass them. Leonardo's famous quote about the pupil surpassing the master.
Like the relationship between Freddie Roach and Eddie Futch initially. And then how Roach's relationship with Manny Pacquiao evolved into something more collaborative.
Exactly. It moves from one-way instruction to a back-and-forth exchange, driving innovation. It helps overcome those learning plateaus everyone hits.
But finding that truly effective, dynamic mentorship, it's rare.
It seems to be. Relationships can stagnate, people get busy, dynamics shift. But when it clicks, that interactive exchange is incredibly powerful.
Let's circle back, Philly, to Faraday, because his path to finding Davy is instructive. He didn't just ask, did he?
No, he demonstrated immense value first. His background was humble, self-educated through reading while working in a bookshop. He attended Davy's public lectures.
And took those incredibly detailed notes, bound them, and presented them to Davy.
Yes, showcasing his diligence, his passion, his organizational skills. He made himself useful. He offered tangible value to Davy.
That seems key. Don't just ask for help. Show you're worth helping. Demonstrate basic skills, discipline, willingness to do grunt work for access.
Continually hook potential mentors through their own self-interest, showing how you can contribute. Work on yourself first to attract the right teacher. Don't be timid, but be strategic.
And the goal is always to internalize their knowledge deeply, right? Not just become a copy.
Absolutely. Make it your own. Develop your own feel, your own style. And eventually, ideally, move beyond them. That dynamic back and forth keeps both apprentice and mentor sharp.
Okay, so we've covered finding your path, the intense process of apprenticeship, the role of mentors. But there's a whole other dimension, navigating the social world.
Ah, yes, social intelligence. Crucial, because you can have all the skills in the world, but if you can't deal with people resistance, politics, manipulation, it can totally derail you. It's emotionally draining.
And the big trap is projecting our own feelings and assumptions onto others,
Right.
thinking they see the world just like we do.
That's the core problem. Social intelligence starts with seeing people realistically as they are, understanding their motivations, not just yours. Focusing outward, reading behavior, discerning hidden agendas.
Mastery isn't truly mastery without this piece.
Greene argues it isn't, no. And Benjamin Franklin's life is presented as a sort of case study in developing it.
Right, his early experiences, getting rejected by his brother, inventing silence do-good to get his writing published.
He learned early about personas, but then he confessed and got burned. His brother resented him.
Then he fled to Philly, got tricked by the governor about starting his own print shop, went to London based on false promises.
Got stranded there, had colleagues sabotage him because he didn't join their drinking rituals. He realized he was smart about work, but incredibly naive about people.
The paradox. Rational in work, emotional and naive in social interactions.
His breakthrough was deciding to consciously change, to take a step back in social situations, observe, not get emotional, and try to think inside the other person. Understand their perspective, their angle.
Like he did creating silence do-good, but applying it to real interactions.
Exactly. Adopting a philosophy of radical acceptance of human nature, flaws and all. Observing people almost like a scientist.
Which helped him when he got back to Philly and encountered his old boss, Keimer.
Yeah, Keimer seemed friendly, offered him work, but Franklin suspected resentment. By thinking inside Keimer, he figured out the plan. Keimer wanted to use Franklin's skills, then dump him. So Franklin quietly built his own relationships, learned new skills, and left Keimer high and dry when he started his own successful shop.
No bitterness, just strategy. And later, with Isaac Norris, the politician with the rare book collection.
Franklin understood Norris's pride and insecurity about his collection, so he didn't argue politics. He politely asked to borrow a rare book, flattered Norris's ego, returned it promptly with thanks. Built an alliance by understanding and addressing the other person's motivation.
It's about adapting your approach, even your persona, like Franklin did in France, appearing to embody their ideals to gain influence.
Conscious adaptation based on understanding your audience.
Okay, how do we develop this? How do we start seeing people as they are?
It starts with self-reflection. Look back at your own social mistakes, your misinterpretations. Where did your illusions clash with reality?
Recognizing patterns, maybe from family dynamics that repeat in other relationships. Becoming aware of our own naive perspective.
Yes, and consciously shifting focus from self-absorption, how does this affect me, to outward observation, what's going on with them.
But without becoming cynical.
Greene suggests an attitude of supreme acceptance. Recognize that everyone has complexities, a dark side. Observe the human comedy with tolerance. It involves two kinds of knowledge.
Specific and general.
Right. Specific is reading individuals. General is understanding common human patterns.
Okay, reading individuals. That sounds subtle.
It-
Tuning into nonverbals.
Gut feelings.
All of that. Shutting off your internal monologue and just observing tone, eye contact, body language, how people act around authority figures, lowering your own defenses to direct empathy outward.
Resisting the urge to interpret everything personally, trying to see the world from their shoes.
Focusing on actions, especially under stress, often reveals more than words. Watch for extreme behaviors that can be masks. Look at all the signs. Clothes, workspace, choices. And don't judge too quickly. Observe over time. Understand what makes them unique, their values, their past.
Then you can start to anticipate actions, understand how to connect. It's a state of continual observation.
Okay, that's specific knowledge. What about general knowledge? Those 7 deadly realities.
These are common patterns Greene identifies. Envy, conformism, rigidity, self-obsessiveness, laziness, flightiness, and passive aggression. They're often disguised, but knowing them helps you spot them, and crucially, avoid provoking them unnecessarily.
Let's quickly recap them. Envy.
Constant comparison, insecurity leading to sabotage. Defense, don't flaunt success, deflect praise, make them feel important.
Conformism.
Groupthink, policing norms. Defense, appear to fit in publicly. Reserve true thoughts for trusted allies, play the game.
Rigidity.
Hates complexity, clings to routine, defensive about ideas. Defense, don't confront directly, patiently demonstrate better ways through action.
Self-obsessiveness.
Sees everything through their own needs, poor empathy. Defense, ask questions to draw them out, listen actively, make them the focus. Avoids effort, seeks shortcuts. Defense. Set a strong example, frame tasks to show their benefit, make effort seem easier than avoidance.
Flightiness.
Emotion-driven, inconsistent, defense. Keep emotional distance, focus on their actions, not promises, rely on yourself.
And passive aggression.
Fear of direct conflict leads to indirect attacks, procrastination, snide comments. Defense. Calmly name the behavior, encourage directness, don't get drawn into playing their game.
Understanding these helps you navigate, well, almost any group setting, which links to crafting your persona. Teresita Fernandez, the artist.
Her story is interesting. She felt like an outsider, observed social cliques, found her niche in art, working with steel.
But then the reaction to her work, these large, powerful sculptures made by her, created this unexpected attention on her, this intriguing contrast.
Right. It seemed effortless, mysterious. And she realized intuitively that explaining all the hard work, the sweat, would actually diminish the impact, the power of the unrevealed.
So she consciously cultivated a persona. Focused, intense, adaptable.
Yes. Saw her persona as another material to shape. It highlights how managing perception, consciously molding how you appear, is part of achieving mastery and influence. Don't let others define you based on surface appearances.
Create intrigue, control the narrative. Which brings us back one last time to Temple Grandin and seeing yourself as others see you.
Even with her social challenges, she learned this was critical. Her telepathic connection with animals didn't translate to humans. She initially thought just doing good work would be enough.
But it wasn't. She made mistakes because she misread unspoken cues.
Exactly, like a design flaw in a facility because she didn't pick up on workers' unstated concerns. She had to learn, consciously, to compensate. Asking direct questions, seeking explicit feedback, even using video to analyze interactions.
She had to build a social persona as a tool and constantly work at understanding that gap between her self-perception and others' perception of her.
It underscores that social intelligence is a skill. It can be learned, improved. Seeing yourself from the outside, identifying behaviors causing negative reactions, and consciously modifying them is key. Adjusting your performance.
Wow. Okay. Skills, apprenticeship, social intelligence. That leads us to the final stage, the creative phase.
Right. Moving beyond absorbing and navigating to truly expressing your unique vision.
Yeah.
Innovating.
Mozart, again, seems like the key figure here. His transition from skilled imitator to groundbreaking composer.
Exactly. In Salzburg, he was brilliant but conventional. His frustration grew, this inner turmoil wanting expression. He started experimenting, slow movements, things his father hated.
He suppressed it for a while,
Got depressed.
until the rebellion. Freeing himself from those constraints, reconnecting with his original, almost childlike passion for music, especially opera, that unlocked the floodgates. The speed and volume of his later compositions were staggering.
It's just a universal potential in all of us, if we reach that stage. Greene calls it the dimensional mind. Yes, it combines that high-level knowledge gained through rigorous apprenticeship with openness, flexibility, the ability to see connections others miss.
But the danger is that the knowledge itself can become a prison, lock you into rigid thinking.
Precisely. You have to actively force the mind to stay exploratory. Greene outlines 3 essential steps for awakening this dimensional mind.
Okay, what are they?
1. Choose the proper creative task. 2. Loosen and open the mind. 3. Create optimal mental conditions for breakthrough. And always be aware of emotional pitfalls like complacency or boredom.
So, step 1, the creative task. What makes a task proper?
It has to engage your whole saper, emotions, energy, mind. It demands time, effort, experimentation, setbacks, requires patience and faith.
And it needs an obsessive quality, deeply connected to your life's task.
Absolutely. Like Mozart's pull towards opera, or Edison's relentless pursuit of the electric light, or Rembrandt's focus on darker human aspects. That deep personal connection fuels you through the difficulties. The choice of where you direct that creative energy is fundamental.
Okay, choose the right, deeply engaging task. Step 2, opening the mind.
This is about loosening rigid thinking patterns, cultivating mental fluidity, adopting the beginner's mind, approaching subjects with fresh curiosity, letting go of preconceptions.
Like Franklin's endless curiosity or Faraday's childlike wonder at nature.
Exactly. And embracing what Keats called negative capability.
Being comfortable with uncertainty, mystery, not needing immediate answers.
Yes, tolerating ambiguity allows for a wider range of ideas, richer insights. Think Einstein pondering the paradoxes of light for years before his breakthroughs. It helps you avoid confirmation bias and stale thinking.
So stay curious, embrace uncertainty. Then step 3, the breakthrough, creating the right conditions.
This often involves periods of intense focus followed by stepping away incubation, letting the subconscious mind connect disparate ideas.
The classic aha moment in the shower or on a walk.
Often, yes, insights surface unexpectedly when the conscious mind relaxes. The key is to capture those ideas immediately. Then you return to the problem with that new perspective.
And this often involves tapping into more primal forms of intelligence, beyond just language.
Very much so. Visual thinking, spatial reasoning, feeling things physically. Sensory input, language is powerful, but it can also limit. Great creative thinkers often access these deeper, nonverbal modes.
Like mathematicians thinking in images, Faraday visualizing electromagnetic fields, Kekulé dreaming the benzene ring structure, Einstein describing his thought process as nonverbal.
We need to consciously train ourselves to move beyond linguistic thinking and engage these other intelligences.
Which ties into subverting our usual mental patterns, like focusing on the how, not just the what.
Yes, looking at structure, relationships, resisting the urge to generalize too quickly, instead focusing on details like Leonardo did, cultivating multidimensional thought, combining fields like Calatrava.
Embracing uncertainty, challenging old assumptions, reversing perspective, seeing failure as useful, success as potentially dangerous, actively engaging those visual, spatial, sensory modes.
It's all about disrupting the lazy habits of the conventional mind to foster truly creative insight.
Wow. Okay, that brings us through the whole arc, from discovering your calling to achieving creative mastery. It's quite a journey.
It really is. Self-awareness, deep practice, social navigation, creative exploration. It's a continuous process of learning and adaptation, not a final destination.
So for you listening, hopefully this deep dive has sparked some connections, some aha moments for your own path, whether you're tackling a specific project or just exploring your curiosity.
It's about applying these principles, even in small ways.
And maybe this final thought to leave you with, what's that one area in your life where you feel that persistent pull, that urge to learn and explore more deeply?
Yeah, think about that area. How could you apply even one of these ideas we've discussed? That focused attention, embracing a challenge, digging into the how, connecting with that inner calling to deepen your engagement.
What new levels of understanding or even creativity might that unlock for you?
Something to consider. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive.